Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and today we've got a top 16 double feature for the TAC and Core online premiere webcam regionals that happened this past weekend. Both were over 100 players. The TAC was 256, Core was 170, and also big shout outs to both TAC, Core, and also DBS Decks for getting me these lists for you guys. If you need to see these lists, you just only care about one of them, just go right down to the description. There will be a link to this document you see on the screen right there, and you can check any of the lists that you want. And then we're also just going to talk about a couple of these lists. There were 14 unique leaders across these two events, and so I just want to talk about one deck from every leader, and we're just going to go through it. Mostly just the ones that I think are cool and worth talking about, but literally, you know, all these decks are great. So if there's a different one from a different leader that you like more, totally go for it. But these are just the ones that I handpicked. But real quick, I did want to say for the top cuts, so TAC was a little bit more consolidated. Didn't have as many leaders, but like 5 Dark Broly's, 4 Shenrons, and then 2 Blue Babies. Which I think in general, like it's kind of surprising seeing Blue Baby kind of have a bit of a resurgence, but I know that it does really good against Dark Broly, which is very good right now. And then also 2 King Piccolo, 1 Launch Majin Vegeta, and 1 Black Gogeta. So a little bit not as much diversity if we go down to the Core event, which had 3 Baby, that was the most common, and then 2 Reboot Goku, and 2 Red Broly, which neither of these guys were in. Like, there's a lot of decks that were only topped in one event and not the other, which I thought was really cool. Like Reboot Goku, Red Broly, Turles, all these leaders were not in at all, like, the TAC top 16, but they made it pretty good here. We also had 1 Majin Vegeta, 1 Mecha Frieza, 1 Shenron, which is weird that only one when it was 4 over there. There's only 1 Dark Broly 2 as well. We had 1 Bulma, 1 Android 16, another Black Gogeta, 1 for each, and then also Invoker was the one that took the tournament for Core, with David Sublett playing that, and also David Fu playing Shenron on the TAC side. So let's just jump on into some of these lists. Once again, we're going to look at one list from every leader. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but obviously if you guys if any of these people do kind of deck list stuff, let me know. I'll try to put links to their videos. Obviously they know more about their decks than I do, but we're going to just go through that. So first we're going to look at David Fu's Shenron, and this is the aggro version, which I think this is a really, like, I didn't see this until about a week ago, like this idea of like, oh, Shenron got so much support that it also has an aggro variant, which is, can really surprise you. I think it's well known now. But like, a week or two ago, like, most of the time when you're playing Shenron, you're like, oh, they're just going to set up and play slowly for like 4 or 5 turns. But no, being able to just consistently get Cell Xeno out turn 2 is is crazy, especially with Rage Shenron, which was a really weird card when it was produced. I thought that this card was trash, and I think a lot of other people did too. But it's a crit. It's add 1 card from your life to your hand to get 15k. You can get this guy out for 1 energy. You play a ball and you get him out after the ball. And then from there you can send them to your drop area with Omega Shenron, and then for 1 yellow, and then you get to draw a card, play this card from your hand, and then you can make it another one of these as well. Like, there's just so much stuff there, a lot of life taking, a lot of, like, big 30k crit, and then you have an 8 cost out, and then if you get a 4 cost out, which you can do for super cheap, you can get Cell Xeno out incredibly fast. A lot of consistency with this deck. A lot of cards are Shadow Dragons, which your leader looks for. You awaken at 3 and you're able to untap 1, draw 2, and then just a bunch of great cards, especially like even Swift Retaliation Cooler, being able to just run this card and have a counter with a bunch of these big bodies that can have double strike or double attack. Like, this Shenron can just turn into whatever he wants. And then also playing a big triple striker for just 1 yellow energy is also insane. There's just a lot of reach for this deck. There's a lot of cool support, and there's just been so much Shadow Dragons printed in the last year that I'm not surprised that there is an aggro variant of this deck, because that's usually how Dragon Ball eventually boils down to. But it's very powerful for there. So congrats David Fu with this list, going undefeated with it. Once again, a lot of Shenrons there. Most of them were aggro variants from what I saw, but there were 1 or 2 control variants as well. But I think this one's just been more consistent, especially like in a best of 1 where you have to be, and the rounds are a little bit tighter. This is definitely, I think, one of the better lists for Shenron. Then we also have a Dark Broly. I think Dark Broly, the list is less important as kind of the play style of the person. Like, Dark Broly is just such a consistent and deck that it also has just so many lines of play, and so it's definitely a deck that promotes a really good pilot and the list is a little bit less important. You'll see like a lot of people do a bunch of 1-ofs and 2-ofs, and I've seen Dark Broly for quite a while now. I don't really have any big insights on it right now. Just, everyone has their own personal preferences on what they want to see. I've been seeing a little bit more of this Piccolo unison, just being able to, choose one card from your hand, discard it, or, you can also cycle or choose, the -3 to choose up to, 2 cards from your opponent's drop area. So the warp can be really big late game too. There's just a bunch of cool things. And just, once again, this deck is so flexible. There's so many avenues for play that it's not surprising that people, now that people really know how to play Dark Broly very well, there's a lot of people. I'd say like the weird thing is seeing only 3 of this guy and 2 of the blocker, but you definitely want to play this guy. The hand destruction and warp destruction, I think too, is super huge and can really disrupt your a lot of what your opponent's doing. And this is like a strict 50 card deck, which I know a lot of people go up and down, and then also the idea as Super Saiyan 4. This is a best of 1 tournament, both of them were, and mostly I feel more comfortable with this card in my side deck, but it's obviously a really strong card if you're able to get off with the 7-drop. So it's a lot of decision making, a lot of options. All these Broly decks are like this. You'll never see 2 Dark Broly decks exactly the same unless like they're on a team, because everyone has 1 or 2 of ratios that they swear by, and that's how they play around it. And it's really cool to see a lot of diversity in one leader, but the leader is just super duper good, as we all kind of know. Next up, we've got, I chose Jean-Sebastian's baby list just because it has some extra spice in it, but it's really interesting to see this leader come back. I know a lot of people were really, really afraid of this leader coming out set 11, and then it barely made a splash, and then kind of hadn't until probably the beginning of this last month, where I think it's more of, one, I think this has a really good, matchup against Dark Broly, and also kind of since Shenron as well, in which both of these leaders are good right now, so... at least the aggressive version of Shenron, just because you have like so many negates and so much stuff you can do against them, that Blue Baby can have its time to shine, which I think is cool. But yeah, it's just a huge deck. We've got 57 cards in this deck. What an interesting. Oh man, I get I need to get like at least even numbers. Like 56 and 58 is fine, but 57, I don't know. This seems kind of crazy. But that's the thing too with best of ones. You have to put your tech in the main deck sometimes, because you have to be able to get that best of 1 win. But pretty solid list from what I've seen. There's a lot of spice, especially the Rebirth of Justice, which has some cool things. So you choose up to 1 blue battle card at any cost of 5 or less in your hand, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards, return it to their hand. So this is a nice, this is a turn 4 play, and this is a really old card. This is from like set 3, but I feel like the card, like one being able to play Baby Golden Avenger for 1 less can be huge. Especially since it's a big triple striker, and then when this card's played, you draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and place it at the bottom of their deck. So just being able to do that is great. And then also the surprise tech of Frieza, full power Frieza. So it's a big triple striker, and then when this card attacks, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and gets minus 30k power for the turn. And then when the power of your opponent's battle cards decrease, your opponent places the top 2 cards of their deck into their drop area. So this can just be a win condition by itself, because if your opponent has 5 cards out, then you can make them mill 10, and that can be the game. So I haven't talked to Jean-Sebastian, but I can feel like this can be like a win condition in itself, especially since you're playing such a slow deck that you're going to get to late game. Your opponent might not have any cards left in the deck, especially Dark Broly, because they mill so much. Just being able to mill 10 out of their deck can maybe win you the game. So, and then also Android 17 as like a good finisher, Fu, the Dark Banisher, Baby Hatchak as their secret rare, and then also 2 Son Gohan and Piccolo. So if your leader card is blue or green, you can discard this card, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, any cost 3 or less, place in the bottom of your deck. Just some additional removal options. This deck looks really solid. I like a lot of what it does, and I'm happy to see that it did well at this tournament as well. Next up, we've got Michael Cooper with Majin Vegeta. There are 2 Majin Vegeta decks. There's Michael's and then the other one. I'll say your name. I'll find it. Let me be nice. It was Namvo. He also played. He played the more I'd say straightforward version where you go through the Majin Buu engine. But you look at this, and I know Michael Cooper because he plays a lot of reboot Gohan, and so this is this is literally a reboot Gohan list with Majin Vegeta. but it works because Majin Vegeta is super good at what he does, and Michael Cooper is really good at being an aggressive green player. So you'll see that this is more on the idea of just doing a lot of damage to your opponent, not necessarily going through the chain. Like obviously not going through the chain, but there are some Majin Vegeta, especially being able to do like the servant and then popping it back and bringing it back is good. Like the new Cocoon says, I think Demigran Unison and Sorcery is really good at putting on pressure. And you see that they run Frieza Charismatic Villain, which is also Fuse Zamasu that you can go on top of there. 2 of the Sun Gohan Hidden Might, which you can also do the same thing if you can play this card for 2 and then double strike, and then you can send it away and play as a Fuse Zamasu. It really is. It's just like it's reboot Gohan on a different leader, and it totally works. So there's a lot of cool tech, especially like this Vegeta. Like these cards now that Baby is now like Blue has like some good footholds in the meta. Vegeta projecting his level 1 is such a good. Any of these cards for any color are really good. So it's a great card there. And that's really all I have to say. It's strong. Michael Cooper is really good at green aggro, so I'm not surprised that he was able to do well with another green aggro deck. Now that you can't do best of 1 reboot Gohan. Next up, we've got good friend of mine, Dom, who also let me borrow cards from my pitiful run on this weekend, but he decided to play Red Launch, the only Red Launch to finish top 16 in either tournament. But I like this deck a lot. Like Launch made a big splash a couple weeks ago with Eric Slido playing in the big Canadian tournament and getting undefeated with it, really turning some heads and saying like, oh, this leader's really busted at times. I think like the big cards that really help it out are obviously Piccolo Jr. is super good, and Dom's running Assimilate to get him, and it just has a bunch of power, and also being able to do Acrobatic Warrior. And there's just so much consistency too, because you're able to see like a lot of cards in your life, which means you get to see, you get to choose what cards you add from it as well. And there's also been like the Invoker versions we've been seeing as well. It's just a really cool leader. It's nice to see that it's been able to get some stuff, and also congrats to Dom for being able to pull it out with this list as well. Super cool to see it, and I don't think Launch is going anywhere. I'd say Launch is probably tier 2, but it's a really solid tier 2 leader, and people are still going to be playing it. I think they're still going to be able to see some success with it. Next up, we've got King Piccolo, and I think, it was really weird because King Piccolo was able to get 2 in the attack, but no one in core topped with King Piccolo, which I thought was really interesting. But both lists are pretty solid. Obviously this deck plays a lot of cards that are kind of have-tos and staples. A bunch of the Demon Clan cards, a bunch like this drum. This drum's so good. It's such a good card. I still think it needs unique, but it's such a great card. And then the promotional Piccolo Jr. being able to play this as a negate. And everything else. Really solid list in a lot of regards. I think there's some cool techs that are also seen, like Omen of the Awakened. If your leader card's ran, you choose one card in your life, place in your drop area. If the battle card being played is 20k power or less, is placed in its owner's drop area instead of being played, which is super duper good. A lot of people aren't playing or aren't expecting a counterplay from red. They're expecting it from like blue or maybe green. But like being able to do this, and it prevents like on play autos as well, which is amazing. And also, if you have a red unison card and play with specific cost of 2, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. So just being able to do for 1 energy, and you have to take a life obviously, but you can just shut down your opponent's turn is a huge move. So I think this card is really neat in this kind of deck. Obviously, this is a more mid-range version because they also run Whis Celestial Moderator as well. They're only running one of these Piccolos. I'm not sure if that's just available. I guess he's cheaper now. He's only $8. He used to be super expensive. Like this Piccolo Jr. is like $30. Crazy. But really solid list though. Obviously, a lot of cards are. I like the couple of tech choices, especially like Whis Celestial Moderator. My guess is like I'd say like Black Mass Saiyan is a good counterplay for a lot of the stuff. So being able to have this guy to pop that, and anything else that is really annoying, I think can really help this deck out a lot. And then our last deck on the attack side, I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot about this. Also, this is Stephan Cheff's deck. I don't know if I said that, but it's Stephan Cheff's deck. That's just saying this is his list. I don't know if I said that, but I did now. Anyways, this is Carl Eldon's Black Gogeta list. I don't know a lot about this archetype. I haven't seen it played, so if either Carl Eldon or also the gentleman who played it on the core side, which was Christopher. If either of you guys have a video or want to do a video on your list, let me know. And you guys will obviously know more about this leader. But he is really interesting. He's Union Fusion based, and he's kind of like most of these black leaders mill cards to your drop here, but this mills to your warp. But then all your Union Fusions have these permanent that you can choose battle cards in your warp when choosing cards to use this Union skill with. If you do place the chosen cards in your drop area from your warp, I think you can go like 1 and 1. So if like you have like one Goku in your warp and one in your hand, you can just put both in your drop area. That's what I assume. I don't know one way or the other, so if that's wrong, let me know. But there's just like a bunch of cool stuff you can do, and there's just a lot of so good like Gokus and Vegetas that are like 5Ks. So we've got like the Vegeta here, that, you know, if your leader is a black sand card, when your opponent switches energy to active mode with non-awakened skills, they choose one card from their hand sent into the warp. Same with this Goku. If your leader card is black sand, when your opponent activates a counter skill, they choose one card and send it to the warp. Both these can also be self-awakeners. And then there's also the, you know, obviously we know the super combo is good, right? Like it's $8 for a reason. It's just a rare. It's like expensive. So that's great. And then also the Son Goku Castratic Premonition. So once per turn, when your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand using a non-leader card skill, this card gains plus 10k power to the end of your next turn. So it just means like if they like do a super combo or something, it just gains power, which is cool. But it's mostly this is just like a 5k Goku. But there's just a bunch of that, and you have a bunch of these Gogetas that you're able to just get out for Union Fusion for really cheap. Like this blocker here that also when you play it, you get to warp one of 4 or less, and also this one as well that has Barrier, and then for 1 black place card at the bottom of your deck, play up to 1 Son Goku Xeno, any cost of 1, and up to 1 Vegeta Xeno with any cost of 1 for your drop air or warp. And so what you're able to do with that is you get to do that, and then like the leader skill, you can add 1 card from your life to your hand, choose 2 of your black battle cards at any cost of 1 to get plus 10k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. And since like this has like a double striker, it becomes a 15 and can become a 25. And then also just being able to play, like you get to play this this from your drop area. You can just play a super combo, and this is a great super combo, so you can just super combo with again later. It is active main, you have to pay 1 black for it, but you know, if you need like a really big double strike swing, you just play one of these guys, and then you can swing, and you can take, you know, use your leader ability, make it really big, and just kind of go from there. And then only one of these Gogetas here. I'm not sure if it's if that's a cost, or if this. I know this card's really hard to find as well. I'm not sure if they'd run more than 1. But it is double striker. It is Union Fusion for 3, and then also you can play once per turn. After main place 1 Son Goku Xeno with 5k and Vegeta Xeno with 5k in your drop area from your warp. Switch this card to active mode. So being able to have like a dual attack is kind of nice to finish the game. But I don't know if this is once again. I'd have to ask if that was just available with the card, or really only one's needed. So, anyways, I've talked a bunch about this this leader. Definitely check out the list, and also Christian's list as well, or Christopher's list, sorry. And if they make any videos or anything, I'll make sure to link them, because they obviously know more about what they're talking about than I do right now. Going over to the core side, so first place we got David Sublett with Invoker. I didn't once again it's like Dark Broly. This list is super hard to play, and it's definitely player sensitive. But I'll also say I think the newest card in this deck is this Violent Rays, which came out in set 11, which was 2 sets ago. So I think, you know, this deck is super strong. It can always clinch out wins, and if you know what's going on and you can play around your opponent, you can always get there. Especially like just being able to have like this secret rare is amazing. You know, Invoker's a year plus old now, and I don't think it's going anywhere. If you love this deck and you really commit to it, I think you can still do well with it, because obviously you got first place with it, David. But yeah, it's a solid list. I've been talking about this list like this for a year, and I don't have any more insights for it. But there you go. Next up, we've got Super Saiyan Son Goku. We've got this reboot. I guess reboot at what is it? Janemba, skillless Janemba archetype that Frisco Fahs played. It's really interesting. I've seen a lot of kind of builds around the idea like, oh, this Janemba archetype that came out in Vicious Rejuvenation hasn't seen a lot of play. Look, there's been a lot of experimentation, but it hasn't been really consistent. But I really do like this build and what it does. It runs the unison, like this Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta Super Warrior Evolution is such a good unison for it. because you're able to, for -1, choose up 2 of your opponent's battle cards, turn to the owner's hand, then choose up to 1 mono blue sand with any cost original energy cost 2 or less. Your hand plays with its skills negated for the turn. So the card that you want to get is the Son Goku here, which you just get this free skill list, and then from there you're able to activate if you have 3 or more energy and choose one of your blue skill list cards with any cost of 2 or 3. To return another's hand, play this card for your hand. You can't play active main. So like you just get like this really nice 1 to there, and then you have this crit dual attack, which goes into other things. It just seems super solid. I'd say like the only thing is that there's not like any like big late game options for it, but there is some, I don't know, there's just some cool stuff. If you're able to go through your stuff, there's like a lot of pressure. You get 3 crit swings, and you get onto this guy as well, and it's a crit dual attacker as well. So there's just like a lot of power and a lot of crit swings. Obviously, if you're able to pop the Janemba, then you can't really do anything after that. But a lot of these cards are good, especially like this Gogeta has a permanent. If your leader card's blue sand and you have a blue sand in rest mode, your leader card doesn't take damage from attacks. So if your opponent doesn't know that's what it does, then you can kind of play around that as well. There's also 4 Nimbus Masters, which means you can get your Goku out earlier as well. It's just super solid. It's a, I'd say, moderately simple kind of play style, but it does a lot. And also being able to play 3 Mechis without worrying about it is great, especially since a lot of decks are really known right now. So you can just say what your opponent, you can just hardcast this turn 2, be like, I don't know, Dark Broly 6, and then your opponent can't do anything or set up, and then you can just kind of go wild next turn with your, all your swings and everything from there. So I like the deck. Congrats on him. And let's go to our next one. We've got let's see, Jacob Daves with his Turles list. Nothing I'd say is too fancy about this list. The only thing I noticed is that he's not running, I guess 2 things. One, I've seen people play either there's there's Paragus or this guy. So he's deciding to use this Crusher Corpse probably just because it's more consistent to see, even though drawing 2 and warping 1 I think is better, or even drawing or bottom decking 1, drawing 2. But that's the one he chose there. And he's also missing, I think it's Amond. He's not playing Amond, which I see most players play, and he's choosing to play Turles Invader of the Earth, which I think is like hot and cold for a bunch of people. And only 2 Dormants as well, and I'm not sure if that's just how many he wanted to run, or if it's an availability issue, because this is a $70 card somehow now. But yeah, pretty consistent. Obviously, if you don't have enough, play set of Dormants, you can run this list with 2, and you'd still do obviously pretty well with it. But yeah, Turles has been kind of on and off for me. I feel like it just dies a little bit too easily to Black Mass Saiyan, which also means it's a little bit better in best of 1 because you don't have to worry about that card as often because you can't, your opponent doesn't get to side into it. But it is cool to see Turles doing well. List looks pretty solid to me. Using the Majin Buu also as your finisher as well. And yeah, congrats again to Jacob there. I don't have a lot to say about this list just because I don't play a lot of Turles, but it's pretty self-explanatory too. You just kind of swarm the field and go off from there. And I think, obviously best of 1, this is probably a better list because there's a lot of, I feel like Turles is kind of weak to a lot of, common counterplay cards. So if those don't exist, then you got more gas than usual. Next up, we've got the only Mecha Frieza. We've got Seraphim Zhang with a pretty interesting build. He's running one. I really like the Violent Rush Bojack. I super do like the Aegis builds of Mecha. If I was to play Mecha, I'd definitely run the Bojack version. Just so much flexibility, and like you get so much cards in hand that discarding a blue yellow to being able to untap, like untapping 2 energy in this leader is amazing and huge. So I think that's really good. There's some interesting cards that I think are in and out. They're running the Slug engine, which I think is cool. I think this is a strong engine in its own right. There's a bunch of cards that just draw, like a bunch of leaders and stuff, and just draw like crazy. Running 4 Vegeta Unison of Fury as well, just making it kind of obnoxious for your opponent to attack with battle cards with greater than their current energy, which a bunch of decks do. Like Dark Broly does a lot of that, and like Shenron does a bunch of that. So if neither of those can swing, then you're kind of safe, which feels kind of nice. Only running, Cold Bloodless, not running the new 2-drop yellow extra card, which I think is fine for this build. It's obviously not as much extra card centered as other builds. Running 2 of the Sorel and Hop, both because 1, this is a Universe 9 card, so you can play this off Universe 9 Assemble for free, which is kind of cool. And then also, when this card activates its blocker skill, your opponent might choose 1 card and switch to rest mode. If they don't, draw 1. So you get to draw 1, or you get a free tap, which means that you can get your Bergamos out as well. So just like a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of like obnoxious stuff that your opponent can't do. It's got a Final Spirit Cannon, which active main, choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards, switch to rest mode, or choose 1 of your opponent's battle card and rest mode at any cost of 4 or less and KO it. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of it. Just the really solid build. I'm really surprised it doesn't run at least one Planet Vegeta and no Black Mass Saiyans. I would think, you know, being able to play Planet Vegeta turn 1, finding a Black Mass Saiyan is like really what you want to do most times, but he said he didn't, and it worked out super well for him, so what do I know? Anyways, let's go to our only Bulma deck top 16. This is Emanuel Perez's. Pretty interesting. I will say I don't know a lot about what this deck is trying to do in the sense of the Gogetas and stuff, because I don't play it, but I do know that the idea of this bomb is just draw a lot of cards, gain a bunch of like annoying blockers out, and just kind of go from there. Just be really obnoxious, especially with like these 3-drop big boy unisons. Both these unisons are really good at being obnoxious in their own right, especially since you can play Yamcha off them, and then once you play the Yamcha, then it has blocker. And so that's, you know, just getting free advantage from theirs too. And then like it also runs the Vegeta exploiting weaknesses, which is great for a board clear. And it doesn't, like, this can just be a 3-cost you hard cast on your own turn, which is cool, and that gets blocker. And what else? And then like the end condition here is that you use your Union Fusion for these guys. So this is a Union Fusion for 3. If your leader card's red when this card's played, choose up to one of your red unisons, add a marker to it, then choose all your opponent's bad cards, get minus 15k. And then this is an EX Evolve on top. When this card evolves into this, choose up to one of your red unison cards, add 2 markers to it, and you can't play battle cards for the turn. This card are one of your opponent's cards attacks, so you may choose one of your opponent's battle cards, gets minus 20k for the turn. Then there's also the old one, that's EX Evolve on a 6 as well. So you have to discard 2. This one, and you can't do it the same turn because you can't play battle cards for the turn, so you have to wait. But yeah, if there's no battle cards in play in your opponent's battle area, you choose up 2 cards in your opponent's life, place in their opponent's drop area. You can't, so like being able to just like wipe the board and then just play this guy is really great. So like being able to play like Super Saiyan Vegeta on top of that or anything like that, there's some cool interactions with it. Even like the this Goku as well, you can for 2 red if your leader card is red, play this card from your hand, drop here, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, or you can just hard cast this as well. And this also is a, no, this isn't a BR. These are both just, okay, so you'd have to use these guys. My apologies. But I think there's just some cool stuff. And then also, how do you get this Broly out? You just hard cast it. Yeah, if your lead cards are in this card's play, choose one of your red unisons, adds 2 markers to it, then choose up to 3 of your opponent's 3 cards in your opponent's hand, send them to warp. So you must have to, unless I'm missing something, you just hard cast this guy. Because you also have this guy where you can choose one of your mono red things with an original cost 35k power and place in your own drop. Play this card from your hand, then choose up to one of your opponent's, or sorry, choose up to one of your mono red leader cards, gets plus 10k power to the start of your next turn. So it's kind of nice. And then also all cards in your opponent's leader area and battle area and combo area gets minus 5k. So obviously you do it on top of any of your 35ks. If you do this guy, you have to wait a turn again just because of how it works. But since this, you know, has an EX Evolve, you know, this card can't be KO'd. It's kind of safe to kind of live there. What does the minus 3 of this guy do? So active battle, choose of 20 of your opponents. Okay. Yeah, just being able to do like this minus 3 here on both players' turns, especially since you gain so much memory, you know, stuff like that kind of stuff, just makes it obnoxious. Where like anything your opponent plays like can just die immediately between Jiren, or also since Shenron is really good. You know, your red cards can attack your opponent's battle cards in active mode, so they're great for clearing the board. And then, you know, just EX evolving here to just crit 2 life is amazing, I would imagine. So that's the list from what I've seen. Once again, Emanuel, if you have your own video or anything I missed on that, let me know. But I think your list is super solid, and I'm not surprised you did well with it. 2 more lists left. We've got George Machado from PPG with his Android 16. This is the only new leader from Battle Evolution that made top 16 on either event. I'd say Android 16, I think, will get better with more with more people experimenting with it. But it's such a good leader on its head, just because it has a bunch of cycle, it has a bunch of cool blue-green stuff, and it also ramps out some cards as well with the old Android 16, and then also there's just a lot of like Android stuff. The unison choices I think are interesting too. So it chose Raditz Giant Force to blocker auto once per turn when this card activates blocker, switch to active mode. And also, you know, for +0, draw 1 card and switch this card to active mode at the end of your turn. And minus 2, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, return it to the owner's hand, then at the end of the turn, switch to one of your blue energy to active mode as well. So just being able to kind of have that protection if you need it. Also as a blocker, which is good for, you know, this is like a dual attack or like a blocker that can happen twice. So if you're afraid of your opponent killing you, this is going to be really hard to get over in a lot of ways. Running the, you know, Super Saiyan Trunks unison as well, or not unison, counterplay. Both also the Super Saiyan 2 Trunks heroic prospects. and just going from there. It's definitely more like high end because like he only has 2 Android 18s for like turn 1 plays. Obviously you negate the energy exhaust skills of all your Android 16 cards with a rival blue-green. So if you have one of these guys in your energy, you can play this turn 1 if you want to. It's also running the Android 18 Never Ending Energy, just being able to draw 2, which is a huge card, especially since this leader doesn't draw on the Awaken side. So if you need to be able to draw, you can just hard cast there. Also running the Android 21 Destructive Villain. So choose one card in your energy, place in your drop area. When you play this card, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, and cost 4 or less, place them bottom of the deck in any order. So a kind of nice board clear as well. It's also an Android, so you can cycle with it really nice also. And I think like you can, what's this card say? Yeah, when this card up to 1 Android and it costs 5 or less, and then choose up to 1 Android 21, then it costs 5 or less in your hand and play it. So you can use this if you want, and you can when you can rival this out and then just play this card and like wipe the board, which I think can be really cool. So it's a really cool combo there. It's also running this guy as well. You have to get to 8 energy, so I wonder how often he played it. But when this card's played, choose any number of your opponent's battle cards, ignore bear, place them in your own drop areas. At the end of the turn, switch to one of your blue energy to active mode. When this card attacks, your opponent reveals their hand, choose up to 2 cards from it and place them in their energy in rest mode. So it's just like a really good like finisher as well, being able to see all the cards in their hand. And I mean, it's blue-green and it just fits the theme as well. But that's it. I think this list is good. It's really solid. I know George is also a good pilot, so not surprised there. And congratulations there. And the last deck of the night, Red Broly, an oldie but a goodie. Obviously, both Red Broly decks. This is Jacob Solis's that I strictly chose because here I'll show both decks because he plays 12th. Kevin Rivera's list is also right here. We'll pop those up. Boom. Very similar, both lists. Obviously you see the first row is almost identical with just some ratio changes between Violent Rays and Paragus. Obviously this deck has been found out. It's very linear, but it still packs a big punch. Obviously being able to run the Kai is amazing for both offense and defense. And then choosing Mass Saiyan as well on top of the other cards. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about this. I think it's very self-explanatory, but that doesn't mean that both these players didn't play their hearts out. So Jacob and also Kevin, congrats on your placements there with Red Broly. Still strong after all this time. Obviously kind of a back burner to Black Broly and I think King Piccolo, but obviously a very strong deck. I think especially in Best of One, I think it has some perks there as well. And that is it. So if you guys are still watching this, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this video and my insights on this. Once again, if anyone who played this tournament or got top 16 with this wants to do a deck profile or anything, reach out to me as well, and we can maybe talk about it more in depth, especially the Black Gogeta, just because I don't know what those decks do and I want to know more about them. And I bet you guys do too. All these lists are going to be in the description, and once again, thanks to TAC, Core, and DBS Decks for getting me this list. I really appreciate it, and that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.